Let me shrink all these down and up for right now. Then I'll choose to open 13.3 SMS. As I said, when you bring it up, it comes up. There's nothing loaded except for this default data set over here for the map module. And so we want to, the first thing that we want to do is define the display projection. So we'll come in here. If you've previously used SMS and set a projection, sometimes it will come in and have a previous projection. So you want to make sure that you change this to the area that you're wanting to work in. So we'll click Set Projection here. And you see I have a bunch of old projections that I've used in the past. But I'll come down to here and I'll just enter State Plane, New Jersey, meters. And you see I have 5 choices. I'm going to choose just N80 1983 meters. So I'll select that, click OK, and then I'll make sure that the units on this vertical is also in meters, and I'll click OK. One of the nice things they've added with 13.3, it might have been 13.2 as well, they actually show you what the display projection is here down in the lower right-hand corner so that you know what your display projection is and what you're working with. So the next thing that we mentioned was to have all the files. So I'll come into my folder. I have all of these listed here. So I'll just grab every one of those and I'll drag it into the interface. And as I mentioned, when you first come in here, it doesn't know which column these are going to go into. So once we click space, because these are space delimited files, then you can get that and go to the next. So for this particular one, and for all of these, I've made sure that the X's and the Y's are in that order, X, Y, Z. But if you get it from a different group, it's sometimes when they give you these values in northings and eastings, the northings are a Y and the eastings are an X. So you want to make sure that you choose the correct type here at the top, and then make sure you choose the right one for your Z or your depth value. And as I said, there are other options here. So if you have other types of data, you can bring that in as well. You know, you'll typically use scalar data for Manning's values or grain sizes, things like that. But for this case, we're just doing X, Y, and Z for bathymetry. Accept everything else as we have it here and click Finish. And it asks me, okay, what projection is that data for? So in this particular case, this is feet and mean low water. One thing I will mention is that even though I selected each one of these, it may be random which one it chooses first. So just be careful when you're defining these projections and not following this order, but for the order of the actual data set that's coming in. So let me look in my table, and this particular one is for State Plane, New Jersey in feet. And so I'll come over here and I'll make sure I do State Plane, Jersey, feet, and choose the regular NAD 1983 and click OK. And then if this is in feet, the vertical is generally in feet as well. So we'll change that to US Survey feet. Click OK, and then it goes to the next one. And so my channel survey is in the same projection. You notice it didn't go back to that table. It assumes that the X, the Y, and the Z are in the same order, and I'm just accepting all of those as the default. So it's going to load all of these in together at the same time. So let's click this and define this projection. As I said, this is also in feet. So if I go to set projection, I can see in my recent that I just set this one, and I can just click that one up there and click OK. Make sure you do the vertical as well and go to the next. So this is the coastal relief model. This is actually in degrees. So when we set this one, this is going to be set for geographic, lat long. And so I've already done that, and I can choose geographic coordinate system. And then those are in meters, so I'll keep that in meters. And this is where it tells me, hey, you've got several duplicate points. If you want to make your tolerance smaller and redo that, we can do that later. But for right now, it's remove those extra points. So the field T measurements. This particular one is in State Plane, New Jersey meters. And that's my display projection. So that's this one that's already set to. So we can just click OK, or just to be on the safe side, we can make sure that we select the right one and make sure you do the vertical as well. So the next one is this LiDAR. And so that tells me it's in State Plane, New Jersey in feet. So I can choose that. And so I'm just going a little bit faster now. And I have one more, which is the contour line. And it's in State Plane, New Jersey meters. So I can just accept what this is, click OK. And if I'm lucky, everything shows up here in the screen together. All right. And so as I said, the red one is the one that's actually selected over here. As I change through, you'll be able to see which one, unless it's covered up by all of the other data. You can zoom in and possibly see it. And then as I choose different ones, you'll see that color change a little bit. All right. Just real quickly, since I did kind of show that, you can zoom in with different tools. So if you need to look at a little bit closer, you can click the zoom tool and draw a box. What I typically do is just use my mouse. So the roller ball on the mouse, as you move it up, it zooms in to where your cursor is pointing. And if you move it out, then it zooms out relative to that as well. So anyway, that's just a shortcut that I use. So I'll go in and go to the next step here. So we get caught up in the documentation. Okay. Almost there. All right, so we're just going to go through and start changing these datum, doing the conversions for them. So showing you under display, there is a, data. There's the data set toolbox. You see it has a longer list here, but we're going to choose data calculator. And I had it set to be looking at this LiDAR, but this will be showing the values for whichever you have selected over here in the data tree. And so in this case, we're going to either you can double click and it will add it to this expression under the calculator, or if you wanted to, you could just type in D1, whichever you want. There's also an add to expression, lots of different ways to do a lot of things in SMS. Typically, I just double click and then start doing my conversions. And so in this particular case, make sure I get the right table. Converting feet to meters. So I need to multiply that by 0.304638. Give it a name. And so in this case, we are going to wind up with NAVD 88 in meters is what this particular one is. And so when we convert this to mean sea level, so we'll choose D4 now, and we'll actually subtract 0.246, sorry, 0.075 meters. So if we look in our table, I'll just pull that up real quick so that we can use that as a reference. We'll give this a new name. And this would be in a, this is now mean sea level in compute. And you see over here, we've got first the feet to meters conversion and then the datum conversion using mean sea level in meters. And we'll go through and do the same thing for all the other 5. So I'll just go through this and do it a little quicker. It's a little smaller here. Right. And then let's go through 3364. Again, we'll go to data set toolbox, data calculator. I will double click that to put it over here. I am converting from feet to meters, so I'll do the 0.3048, and then make sure, I think I messed that first one up. I don't remember putting it in parentheses, but I'll go back and check. And then this, in this case, we're adding in 0.686 meters. And this is mean sea level meters. So in this case, I combined all the steps, so I'm not going to wind up with feet to meters and then the other, so I'm just converting it together. So once you're done, you can't just click done. Make sure you click compute first and then done, otherwise it will not do that computation. So I think this is right, since I did these in separate steps. I didn't need the brackets. So I'm just going to keep going. So the channel survey, that's also feet to meters. So I'll do the same thing, dataset toolbox, calculator, 3048 plus 686. This is mean sea level in meters. The next one, click done. The next one is the coastal relief model. So that's this larger one. It's a toolbox calculator. We'll click, and this one is already in meters and already in mean sea level. So actually, we don't need to do anything for this particular one. I'll just exit out of this and not have to worry about it. Just so that we can reassure ourselves that it's these are all the same, we can actually right click on this and change the name of it. Since we didn't perform a calculation, it doesn't have a new data set, so I just changed the name of it so that I can know later on. So this next one is field team measurements. Again, I'm just quickly going through this. Field team measurements is in NAVD88. We've got to convert it to mean sea level. It's already in meters, so I don't need to worry about that. And so I can choose, so I'm not changing the sign, the from feet to meters. I'm just subtracting 0.075. Sea level in meters, compute. All right, and I think, oh, and this one right here, I don't have to do anything as well. It's already in mean sea level in meters. So I'll just change the name of it. So I think I've handled each one of these. And so now I can go and start the rest. So what I typically would do at this stage is I would save it. So I'll just go under File, Save a New Project, and choose a location for it. So I'm just going to choose folder. I'm going to create a new one so I don't overwrite some of my files. And then give it a name. And so you can put whatever you want here, whatever makes sense. But I'm just going to put in workshop and save. So if you notice at the top of this, you have workshop.sms that just tells you what the name of the project is, if it's been saved yet. And when you look at the files, just to quickly show real quick, you're going to wind up with one file for your project, which is the workshop.sms. And then all this other stuff that's in the data tree is in this folder called workshop data. So you have all that over here. Just so that you understand what files it's saving, and if you see them later, what they mean. All right, so those are saved. And so now I'm going to go through and merge these things together. And so that's under Scatter, Merge Sets. And I can select everything and then unselect the coastal relief model because I don't want to do that one quite yet. And then make sure you go through and you select the right data set for each one of these scatter sets so that we are very consistent. We'll give it a name. And then we are going to choose just merge all the scatter points together. It gives me a report. And then I have a merged data set over here on the side. So all of these are selected. So I'm just turning these off for right now. And I'm only going to be looking at this merged, which is this one here, and the coastal relief model. And then I can frame it again to get back. All right. And so the next step is to merge these two together. And so what I'll show real quickly, I'll turn off this coastal relief model, but I will go into display options. So you can go under display options, or you can click this monitor icon here to get into display options. And I'm just going to turn on the triangle so that we can see what that looks like for this set. And zoom in. And so I'll quickly show a couple of these options. So under scatter options, we set the maximum edge length to 500. And this is, since we're now in meters, that's 500 meters. And we're going to change this to select those long triangles. And then click OK. But that doesn't do anything. That just sets the option. So now to actually perform that, we need to go under triangles, select long triangles, and you see several of them have been selected, and I can either hit this trash can or the delete key and remove those items. But there are several different ones that are still here that I want to clean up. And I'm not going to go through and clean up every one of these just for time's sake. I'm going to show you just how to do a few of these, and then just know that you would iterate on all of these to clean all of these different places up for the areas that you don't want to retain these values. So we have select triangles selected in the interface. And so one of the things I mentioned was being able to hold your control key down. And then as you click and drag your mouse, you'll get an arrow. And when you let up off that arrow, it will select whatever elements were underneath that that arrow. And then you can just delete that and move on to the next section. So I'll do that again in this area. And in this case, I'm also going to hold down the Shift key, which lets me add to the present selection. So right now I've got Control and Shift. And I'll choose, and then I can do several of these all at the same time and just add to my selection, delete, and then clean up a little bit more as I can. Right? And so you'll be just doing this over and over again to clear out all the different areas. I would keep all of the ones on the outside and everything inside this area. But you can kind of see where these longer triangles need to be removed from, like different areas. So once you do that, then you can go through and go under merge data sets again. We'll choose the old merged plus the coastal relief. Again, we need to make sure that the correct data set is chosen for each one of these if it had multiple. And we're going to choose delete the lower priority. And then this is selected right now, so I can just move this up to where it's above the other one. If you wanted to, you could choose the coastal relief and actually move that down. Either way works, just as long as the merged is a lower number or a higher priority than that coastal relief. We can give it a new name, change any values that you might want, and then click OK. Got an error message here about densely spaced vertices in close proximity. So I'll just accept that for right now. We can merge report. And again, I'll turn off the old merged, and we see everything is merged together. You can see the outline of the areas that we decided to keep. So all the areas that we did not remove these triangles is retained, and everywhere else is filled in with that coastal relief. All right. And so that's pretty much all that we're going to cover today. We've got a couple more minutes. I'm just going to quickly show a couple of display things. If you go into the display options, you can actually turn off the triangles now and see what that looks like. Of course, they're so dense. You can now see it once you zoom in. But you can also do other things like use the contour scheme to shade the points with a certain color. And so it looks like these are filled in, but these are actually individual points using the color of whatever you have set for the display options. If you look under color contours, it's using this range, and you can change these as you need to match whatever your desired view is. So I'll normally look at something similar to this. You can change the precision if you'd like, and then click OK. And now we've got blues with deeper water. We've got reds with higher land. And that helps us see if you wanted to get rid of these points, but still show the colors, you can go back to display options, turn off the points, and then turn on the contours. And that's just linear contours. So then we can change this again and be color filled. And then we have the big picture again. So there's a lot of different things that you can work with and changing how things look. We'll go into a few different things as the week progresses. But that's pretty much all that we had set to cover today.